Greetings from Nagoya, Japan. Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Manya and I have just moved from Fort Worth, Texas to Nagoya, Japan. And I'm going to tell you about my first week in this video. This is the Hilton Nagoya, the hotel where we're staying for probably the next 3 weeks to a month. My husband's company that he works for is putting us up in a hotel while we find somewhere to live. So we've settled in. We've been here now, well, I don't really know how to measure this because for me it's Tuesday, May 23rd. But we left on Monday and I think we've been here a week. I think we've had like 7 or 8 sleeps here. So that might be the way to measure it. But let's go back in time and I'm going to show you some video and some pictures all about the last week. Day 1 for us was Monday, May 15th. That's the day that our flight left. Our flight took off from DFW Airport at about noon, but we went early so that we could take advantage of the Flagship Lounge. Now, if you've not heard of the Flagship Lounge, I don't think there's a lot of them around the world, but you know, DFW Airport is a hub for American Airlines. They're based in Fort Worth, Texas, so they have one of these super special lounges because apparently even in the world of lounges, there are different status classes. You may have been in the Admiral's Lounge at some point at one of the airports, and those are nice, but the Flagship Lounge is, I believe, only for people who have first class or business class international tickets. So they're flying out of the US internationally. So in the morning, Danny took me to DFW Airport with all the bags because we had a lot of them. And then he went to return the rental car and to shuttle back to me. Once we checked in at DFW Airport, we headed to the Flagship Lounge of American Airlines. And this is by far the nicest lounge I have ever been in. It is about 20,000 square feet of a lounge. There was a full breakfast buffet. They had a full bar. They had a champagne toast at the very beginning when you checked in, a quiet room, showers, a TV room, and then just rows and rows and rows of seating all overlooking the runway, which of course my husband, because he's an airplane guy, loved. This was a fancy, really fancy lounge, and we spent about 2.5 hours there before it was time to go check in for our flight. We flew direct from DFW Airport to Tokyo Narita Airport, which is approximately 13 hours of flying, but they managed to shorten that to about 12.5, so that was nice. I have not been on a transatlantic flight since I was 12 or 13 years old when my family went to London and we flew LAX to London Heathrow. And I really don't have any memories of that flight. I have 2 memories of that trip. This is so teenagery. I remember, first of all, that I had a giant zit the entire trip, and that was upsetting for me. And then I have a memory of, this would have been, let's see, the late 80s, maybe 1989, something like that. And I remember that there was still smoking on the airplane. I remember that distinctly, and that was gross. But other than that, I don't really remember anything about that trip to London. So this was a big deal for me because it's the longest flight I've been on since I was a kid. But business class, y'all, is the way to travel. Boy, was it nice. Look at this pod that I had. We each had, so we chose to be in the middle, which the only bummer about being in the middle is that we didn't have window seats, so we couldn't really see out. But the airplane, the flight attendants, they managed the windows and you couldn't see out of them for most of the flight anyway. So at the end of the day, I think that ended up being fine. And what was nice is we could have the divider down between our two pods the entire flight. So we could hold hands and we could talk, and that was really, really nice. Each of the pods, the bed can sit up and lay flat, which I knew about, but it could also be controlled along the way. So it was really nice to be able to stretch out. I'm not very tall. I'm only 5'3", so the space was quite roomy for me, which was really nice. It came with a little gift pack that had a toothbrush and toothpaste and an eye mask and a little pen to fill out immigration and customs forms. It also came with a blanket and a pillow, some slippers and socks, which were really nice. I ended up wearing the socks pretty much the whole time when I wasn't walking around. And what else? Oh, the menu and emergency instructions, and that was about it. I will say the pod did not have enough storage room, and that was kind of a bummer. I was constantly managing where to put stuff so that if I wanted to sit up, I needed to figure out somewhere to put the pillow away and all of that. But that's just a minor quibble. The flight was long. I don't know that there's a way around it being long, but the fact that we could lay down, I could move a lot. I'm not a very good sitter. That's my issue on flights. And I tend to have body pain from sitting normal. I'm not a normal sitter. I'm one of those people who likes to sit with my legs crossed or my legs up. And in normal airplane seats, you don't have that luxury. And so being able to move as often as I wanted was really great. They fed us multiple times. We put in our order for the first meal ahead of time, and that was a fish. I can't remember what kind of fish I got, and Danny got some kind of beef something, and that was served pretty early on. I wish they had served it a little later because I had eaten in the Flagship Lounge. It was so funny because I'm used to bringing my own snacks and being really prepared for flights. I did not need to do that at all. They fed us constantly. There were constant drinks. It was really quite first class. There were 19 pods, and we had 2 flight attendants just for our 19 pods. A couple of times I walked the whole plane, maybe 4 or 5 times. I just got up and walked the whole plane. And beyond business class was, I think it's called like Executive Plus or something like that. Those people couldn't lay flat, but they had, it was kind of like not as good as first class on American Airlines, but still nice. And then the back of the bus was, I don't know how these people did it. That is crazy to me. It was like regular airplanes with the tiny seats and the no space for your legs and the tiny tray. And they did that for 12 and a half hours. I am in awe of the people in the back. So then after 12 and a half hours, we landed at Tokyo Narita. Tokyo has 2 airports, Narita and Haneda, and we landed in Narita. This is where it got a little dicey, and I was quite nervous. I don't have any footage for this part because, let me just say, I didn't think we were going to be let into the country. It was very scary. So you can enter Japan as a tourist with just a passport and a return flight. As long as you can prove that you're leaving the country within 90 days, you can just enter with your passport and that return flight evidence. We're moving here, obviously, and we flew on a one-way flight, and we didn't get visas. We're going under a special military status. And so what we had was that documentation of the military status, and we went through regular immigration, and they didn't know what we were handing them. So imagine this. It's after a 13-hour flight, plus we'd been in the airport for another 2-3 hours. So, you know, business class is nice, but it's still not as relaxing as a regular night of sleep. And with the time change was a 14-hour difference. So it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon when we landed in Tokyo, but for us it was like 1 in the morning, something like that. We landed on Tuesday. Anyway, suffice it to say, we were a little, jet lagged. So we get up and we hand them our status, and this very young woman looks at it and she doesn't understand what it is. So she calls someone else over and he reads it and he asks for Danny's military ID. Well, Danny's retired Air Force, so he showed them his retired ID and they didn't like that because in their mind, the status we were showing them, he should be active military. But he works for a defense contractor, so he's not active military. And we were told that all we needed to do was show them this status, and that was all we needed. And they just kept asking for the military ID or a visa, and we didn't have any of that. And we're just standing in this little aisle next to the immigration. They still have the plexiglass dividers up, so we're squeezed in this spot and there's a line forming behind us. They called a third person over and they're still asking for all this stuff, and finally they say, do you have an offer letter? And luckily Danny had printed off the offer letter he got from his employer offering him the job. We had a whole notebook of things he had printed, half of which I thought was overkill to print, but now I'm so happy that he did it because we handed them the offer letter and then they escorted us to a holding room. And that's when I got really nervous. And like I said, I don't have pictures of that because there were signs all over saying no pictures, no cell phones. There was a baby bassinet in there. Like, people spend hours and hours, and these flickering fluorescent lights, it was just like the movies. And I think we were both just trying to be strong for each other. And so at the time, we didn't express to each other how nervous we were, but I started panicking a little bit because it was quite hot in the room. And like I said, the lights were flickering. There was another woman in there who looked like she'd been in there for hours, and there was no communication. They just left us. And so I was, at the time, I found this out later, we both thought we were going to be put back on an airplane and sent back to the U.S. because they don't let you into the country if they don't let you into the country. It's not like they put you up in a hotel for the night. They just stick you back, and it would probably be an economy for another 13 hours back to DFW. And we were like, oh my God. It was about, I don't think it was even 30 minutes that we were in there, but time was passing so slowly, and we were incredibly nervous that we weren't going to be let into the country. That was quite scary. And then a young man came in and he handed us back all of our documentation. He said, okay, thank you. And we were like, what do you mean, thank you? Is it over? Are we good? And he said, welcome to Japan. And that was it. And then we walked in. We got our bags, and then we went to customs, and we had another snag at customs because the customs form, we're having stuff shipped through my husband's company. They're shipping most of our clothes, most of our toiletries, some other necessities, and that stuff will be coming to Japan by air freight and then being held until we have somewhere to live. And so on the customs form, we said we had stuff that was coming later. And they asked us how many boxes, and we said we didn't know because we don't know because someone else packed our stuff. I have no idea how many boxes were in shipping. I could make a guess, but I don't know for certain. And then we said we were moving here and staying for a couple of years, and it all just kind of threw them. Like, I think we were almost too honest because it just threw them. They weren't used to people saying all this kind of thing. And remember, Japan only just reopened to tourists in April after being closed to tourists through COVID. So I think that they were just not prepared for us because we had kind of a weird status going on. So we got through customs and then we were in the country, and I said we got our bags, then we were in the country. So once we were through those things, we knew we were going to be okay. And then we had no longer a 3.5 hour layover before our flight to Nagoya. We chose to fly that last leg because we had so many bags. We didn't want to take the train. And then we checked in for our flight through Japan Airlines. And that was a flight leaving Tokyo at about 7 and landing at about 8. Real quick flight to Nagoya. We were only in the air for about 35 minutes. And they had another lounge where we just hung out. Not nearly as nice as the lounge in American, but by this time, oh, we were both so tired. And I kept getting hungry. It was like my body couldn't keep up with what was happening to it. And so I was starving, and there was very little food in that lounge, but there was nothing to do but wait for our flight. We got on our flight, we flew to Nagoya, we landed, we figured out the ATM, we got on a taxi, and we came here to the Hilton. So, and here we are, and we've been here ever since. We have a really nice room. We're on the 27th floor, and our view of the city is incredible. It's a nice room. So that was Tuesday. Wednesday, we slept. That's basically all we did. We were so unbelievably tired. So we rested all day Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we went out with our relocation specialist to look at properties. Part of the benefit of moving here with my husband's company is that they find us a place to live, and housing is covered. They give us a housing allowance and they pay the lease cost directly. So all we had to do is find somewhere to live. We were convinced that we were going to live in a high-rise apartment downtown, part of the hustle and bustle, not far from where I'm staying now at the hotel. And we looked at a number of properties, but ended up choosing a standalone single-family home. I didn't expect that, but a gentleman who works for the same company as my husband, he and his family were here for the rotation. They lived in this house and they just left, and the owner really liked renting to this company, and so he made us a deal. Even though the house was above our budget, he was willing to come down to our budget so we could afford it. And this house is beautiful. It's more of a Japanese style house. So it's 2 floors, has 2 bedrooms on the top floor, and then a very large, for Japanese, kitchen and living room combo. That's how they do it here. It had a full bath upstairs with the bedrooms, and then a half bath downstairs for company. It has a tatami room, which is a traditional room that has tatami mats on the floor. I'm not sure what we're going to do with that room. I think we're going to make it an office for me and maybe where I do some yoga. It's a quite large room, but you have to be careful with the mats and furniture, and we will be responsible if we pierce the mat. So we're still trying to figure out what to do with that room, but the whole house has tons of storage, which none of the apartments did. It's room to breathe. It's about 2,000 square feet. And out the front door, there is a patio and a garden. And the garden is beautiful. And I think there are many things about this house that we loved, but that garden, being able to sit out there in the mornings and have coffee, it's beautiful, and it's completely surrounded by a wall. So it's private, it's quiet, and it's secure. And best of all, it's only a 5-minute walk from a subway station, which is connected to a shopping mall that has a full grocery store and like a drugstore. It has everything that I need on a daily basis. Oh, and it's right next door to a gym. And the shopping mall has a gym. So if I don't like the gym right next door, I can try the gym in the shopping mall. So it really hits on everything that I was looking for, and more, because I thought we were going to have to live in a tiny apartment because everything here is so small. But this house is beautiful. It's probably a little more space than we need, but I'd rather have more space than not enough. So that was Thursday. We were scheduled to go out again on Friday to look at properties, but because we found what we were looking for on Thursday, we had Friday to ourselves. So Friday we got out and about, and we rode the subway down to the port of Nagoya, which is not very pretty. It reminds me a lot of Galveston, if you've ever been there. There's a lot of refineries and not very pretty. But we went down there to go to a museum that's sponsored, owned by JR line. JR is Japan Railway, and they're the ones who built, maintain, and run the bullet trains, the Shinkansen, as they're called. And this museum was very cool, and now we both want to ride the Shinkansen, like actually ride it, because it allowed us to go on board a number of different bullet trains, from the first one to the latest one. It had the history of trains in Japan. It was a really great museum and a really fun subway ride. It was above ground subway, so that was fun. I like being above ground. And so we cut our teeth on the subways. And then we had the weekend, and I can't remember what we did on Saturday and Sunday. We just kind of wandered. We wandered around. We tried restaurants. We tried to feel comfortable. We napped, just an adjustment. And then yesterday, Danny went to work for the first time, and I took the subway, got some lunch, walked around to a park, and just generally tried to feel comfortable on my own. It's a safe country. It's an incredibly safe country. The language is hard. People here try to speak English. Their English is not. The people at the hotel speak really good English, but outside, we're just trying to do our best. I'm trying to get used to using Google Translate and just feel comfortable. Today is Tuesday. It's morning. I don't know what time it is. Oh, it's about 8 a.m. So after I record this, I'm going to go down and have some breakfast and see what the day brings me. I am just trying to adjust to not working and to have my days to myself. This is the calm before the storm. We're going to need to go furniture shopping. We have to buy literally everything for this house. We're given a budget to do that, but the house is unfurnished. So soup to nuts, we have to buy everything from toilet paper to utensils and plates. Like, this house has nothing. So I'm going to need to start figuring that out. So that was our first week in Japan. Let me know if there's anything that you want me to talk about in particular. I'm certainly enjoying a lot of the differences. Things like the toilets are super different here. Super different. I can talk about the toilets. I might go to a shopping mall today and see if I can get some footage there, but what is it that you want to see? What is it that you want to experience with me? I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below. We made it through week 1. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.